Hi everyone, my name is Fatima and welcome to TREA's How-To Workshops on Resiliency Gardening as a Major Food Supply with Terry Nother. So before we begin the session, please keep your mic muted so that we can avoid any background noises as we begin. Also note there is a chat box where you can write any questions you have, but overall a Q&A session will be taken after we watch Terry's video together. Furthermore, we are recording this session, so if you cannot be with us throughout the entire session, you can watch it again or share it with a friend when the recording is shared on TREA's YouTube channel. We'll send you the link when it's available. Stay tuned. So this workshop series is made attainable thanks to the support from the Ontario Trillium Foundation. Okay, so as you may know or may not know by now, Thames Region Ecological Association, TREA, is hosting this workshop. So TREA is a local nonprofit charity organization who has been active in the community since 1986 on important environmental issues. It's known for a number of activities, such as special events, workshops, programs to engage the community and encourage public policy. TREA's main objective is to educate members in the community to protect the environment, stay informed, and take personal action on climate change. Its vision is a sustainable economy. Community topics over time have included air quality, plastics, pesticides, PCBs, anti-idling, green consumerism, and much more, with a current focus around waste reduction, active transportation, and action against climate change. All right, so before we begin, I would like to introduce our lead speaker, Terry Nother. So Terry, would you mind telling us a bit about yourself?
Acknowledge the treaty lands we stand on. I came across this London Township Treaty, September the 7th, 1796, and it recognizes the collaboration of the Chippewa Nation with the folks who came from Europe, etc. And just want to acknowledge the fact that the lands we're working on and enjoying and so on like that are traditional lands. We are now one nation and working together. So my background is, I'm from Ireland, must have a green thumb, and continue to exploit nature in her bounty as a gardener. And I've enjoyed working my garden here for the last 20 or so years. And it's been a lot of fun, a learning experience, and I've certainly enjoyed the trip, still do, and bit of a maverick in trying certain new endeavors and technologies across soil amendments, containers, etc. So that gives you a little bit of background on me and how I do what I do and my enjoyment.
So now we'll watch Terry's video. Well, he will provide us with tips and advice on how to transform your space into a great vegetable garden, from soil preparation to planting, from seeds to transplant, such as weeding, water to insect control. As a reminder, we will be taking questions after this video, so be sure to write your questions down in the chat box. So now we'll watch the video together. Hi, welcome to TREA's How-To Workshop. And I'm Fatima, so we have Terry Nother, who will talk about his garden tips.
Welcome to the garden.
And Terry will lead us on.
Great. I'm wearing my sun visor today. It's great. This is my magic. Can we go this way? Looking at the flowers here. My wife looks after the flowers. She has the green thumb with the color. So we've managed to build some raised beds in the garden. And we like using raised beds because they're easy on the body. You don't have to bend down as much, and there's less weeds. So we turn around this way. Typical raised beds, the peppers, different salads, and of course the flowery touch, nice. Now, interesting here, we have something called an air pot. These smaller pots are an opportunity for me to try different things. So an air pot is a pot that I've created out of a piece of drain pipe and has a bunch of holes in it. And it allows the air, the roots. More on that in a few minutes. But again, as you can see, we've got some different things growing here. If you like hot peppers, we have lots of them. Cherry tomatoes, taking advantage of some spacing. Nice. And it's first out to catch the nice tomatoes. So we run out and find a red one and enjoy it. Air pots over here. You've got some celery growing here. It's rather small, but again, this is not the best location. Green onions, some peppers, just different vegetables growing wherever it fits in real good. So if we carry on this way, you'll see there's the fruit trees. These were planted last year, so at this point there's not much on them yet, but we also have to do a bit of pruning in the fall. So we look forward to this now. My wife's, it's her hydrangeas down the road. So this is the walkway there. Now, we can go to the next part of the garden. Okay, so we're on a bit of a journey here. Greenhouse there. Now we've got some beets. And then seeds. They're ready to go in as the second harvest. So hopefully within a week or so, we'll put them in where there's space. Like biochar for growing. This is biochar. It's an excellent product for helping the microorganisms and so on like that. And we've got other chemicals or amendments here, like alphos, diatomaceous earth, shell cal. And we're also hoping to get these babies into the ground in the next day or two. These are earth apples, a gift from the TSC store and the Earth Apple Company, so we can grow gourmet small potatoes. And I'm planting them right now. First of all, they're available, and secondly, I think we can get a crop before the end of the year. Oops. All kinds of little tricks. Well, the green, it's actually 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces and a curved piece on top. So it's five pieces of metal put together, assembled, and I use the top part here where it has a board that allows me to grow the seedlings on top and operate down at the bottom. So it's very, very useful. Yes, this thing here is a little air pot. It's very unique. Might be good to see this up close because this is an air pot. It's got all these tiny little holes. What happens is when a plant is growing and the root hits the air, the root stops growing and the plant grows another root. So you end up with an abundance of roots in a plant that makes it very, very healthy and vigorous to grow. So air pots have been around for maybe 20 years, and they're doing an excellent job, particularly in the area of small trees, because they can easily be moved. We've got some potatoes here, lots of shade, so we just put the potatoes in and let them do their thing. They won't be as fast as others because of the shade, but they'll do fine and we'll enjoy them. And there's no trouble, and it's a raised bed. Okay. Now, one of the things I use.
Terry, did you make the bed?
Yes. How did I make the beds? Oh, goodness. Well, it was a matter of space, meaning there wasn't much else that I could do here. So all of these beds have been fabricated with these pieces of wood, as you can see. And obviously, they last a fair bit of time, but they do need to be replaced. But this worked out. So it worked out with the greenhouse, the raised beds, and so on like that. So that worked out fine. Copper tools. Copper tools. Why copper tools? Well, when someone thinks about the energies between the earth and the sky, those energies meet at the surface of the earth. Copper facilitates the transition of the earth energies, sky energies together. Steel, as in steel shovels and tools, tends to more strip it. It becomes more magnetic, it's drawn away, but this conducts. That's why we use copper everywhere in our houses and our lives. Copper is a very good material for that. So we have, there's the fork, and there's the spade. We have a couple of small hand tools that tend to get lost from time to time. The apple trees, pardon? The apple trees, we've got an apple tree here and two pear trees along the fence. This is a tree with 5 different fruits: pears, peaches, apples, etc. on it, been grafted. And the other ones are apples. And you can see we're just starting to get an apple crop this year. We can go this way. Okay. Welcome to the vegetable garden. Okay, so we managed to collaborate with the neighbor here. We cut his grass and maintain his lawn, and he allows us to grow some food here. So we built some raised beds, and you can see we've planted a variety of different things, squashes. We've got tomatoes in the air pots, and there's the corn. That's quite a story, but the corn is doing fine. There's an interesting thing down here I want to show you. It's very much kale. Don't mind me. I like everything. Oh, I want to show you this plant here. We all recognize that. I don't know how many tomatoes are on there. The tomato plants have got to be the strongest plants around because they're holding up all. Actually, it's the wire frame that's holding up. Oh, reach in here, grab a tomato. Beautiful. Got to be 15 pounds of tomatoes there. We start these off early in the season, and we wrap plastic around the bottom to give it an environment. And then what we do is I put a plastic bag on top to create a mini greenhouse. I'll show you that later. But so the cage is here. Let's see where the hole is to get that one.
They need to be picked now so we can enjoy them. These are second crop beets and second crop carrots. Different vegetables, maximizing the space and also taking advantage of the air pots to grow celery. Let's have a look at this one. So there's the celery. Not bad. Nice bunch of celery. Does anybody like celery? Nice. Oh, cabbages, celery, corn. Let's see what the corn is doing here. Oh. Wow. Not bad. Nice. I get to enjoy my corn. So now we're gaining on lunch here. Tomatoes, we got corn and celery, and we can keep going this way. We got kale. We got kale. Like a jungle here. These are all air pots. We planted these gourmet potatoes in here yesterday. So we got 10 pots here with potatoes in it that we're going to explore and see how it unfolds. These are bigger air pots. The thing about the air pots that I find I'm having to be careful about is that they heat up a lot during the real intense July and August sunshine days. And I don't think it's the best method, but if they're in a shady or semi-sunny spot, then I think they do very, very well. I'm excited about it. And then, of course, you've got all kinds of peppers, hot peppers, and what we're growing here. Yeah. Here we go. Well, if I had an apartment or a small space, I'd have 10 air pots. Control them, nice height, easy to plant, harvest, watering is convenient, and there's a lot of heat stored in it. So it works. But it's very big to go. I think this one's hot, so I better not bite into it.
And do you do any kinds of composting?
Well, look at what's happening here. How many compostings do you want? Yes, all year long we gather all of our materials and we put it into the compost pile. And we will be turning this. We have a second pile on the other side of the fence. And we do that. So you've got air pots. Now I want to show you the cage. It's very simple. So here's our air pot. So you get the culvert pipe and drill all the holes in it. And once the holes are drilled in it, fill it up with soil. Then it doesn't matter taking the cage part, up, and away you go. Now you can grow your tomatoes, peppers, anything at all that you want in there. I'm growing potatoes in it. And if you just give me 1 second, I want to get something and show you. Anyway, you get the idea. You can create this little greenhouse. There you go. There's your greenhouse, and when you water it, the water tends to stay inside the bag because of the evaporation. So you don't have to be so careful about watering, but it's a really great opportunity to plant very early in the season and extend the season on both sides. So that's how it works. The bag's $20 at Home Depot. That's it. The culvert pipe, well, you have to have a friend or two that's in the drainage business. I have a nephew who's helping. Now, the other side is the smaller ones. These are interesting. I made these myself, but if you take a closer look at this, the drain pipe that they use around trees has these small holes. So this is an automatic air pot, and I went out and I found the base. So now I can put this anywhere. And I've got an air pot with the benefits of portability and early start seasons, etc. So it works out very good. By the way, this is spinach. Chinese spinach. Yeah, and of course cabbage. Potatoes were planted a few days ago on that side. Took out the beans. So it's a bit of a mess, but then gardening is always a work in progress. We've got a pallet, it's a smaller pallet, good size for raised beds, with the tarp. So in building a raised bed, you can put this, taking the tarp through the pallet, and what you've got prevention of breaking it down. It will last much longer. So shortly, as soon as the season's over, with the work and the composting, we'll be building some of the raised beds again, so that we've got a more permanent structure and an easier way of dealing with it. It's easy to do it. All the materials are free. It's a matter of going and getting them. Many companies around are delighted to see you taking the pallets. And the tarps are free from the roof guys, and so it's just a matter of knowing where to go and doing it. We got a stack of pallets getting ready for the fall when it's time to put it in. Tools, yeah, got a couple of tools. Always something that will help you. You don't have to hurt your back, or you can get something done faster. Raised beds tends to be easier because you're not really into that many weeds, so it's much easier. With a large space like this, you can grow so many different things and time them so that you can grow and eat and then grow in the spaces you're removing. And that's where I'm liking it. Right here, we planted those mini potatoes, which is what we'll see in another month and a half, 2 months maybe. It'll be good. Nice peppers. Abbey. Nice. Go along with my corn and my celery, my tomatoes. Some plants I'm disappointed with. I wanted to see some growth on beautiful fennel or anise. Not successful this year. Too much nitrogen in the soil. We'll see. I do want to say something about carrots. Okay, so I should have a carrot, but we eat a carrot, we throw away the carrot tops. I found a way to use carrot tops. So I take all the carrot top leaves and I dehydrate them. and then they use them for soup or salad. So instead of eating a carrot, we eat the carrot top.
And do you have a water barrel, or do you just use a hose? How does that work?
Well, we're fortunate here where our water is abundant. We're tapped into a water source, in an independent water source, so we can be able to water whenever we want, which is helpful. So that works quite nicely. Yes.
Do you have a water barrel?
I don't need a water barrel because I use well water. Groundwater is what I use for my garden. It would be difficult to have a garden this size and not use water from an alternative source. So that works quite well, and we can spend a lot of time back here growing the foods that we want to grow, enjoying them, picking them, and then extending the seasons both ends. The winter coming in with the greenhouse and the mini greenhouses, and then during the summer everything grows, and as you're removing, you're replanting, and then at the end of the season towards September, October, we can then recreate the greenhouses again and extend the season well into, depending on the crop, beets, carrots, those good root crops that are hardy, they can grow right into December. So we pick them and enjoy them. So the season, the off season isn't that huge, but it's nice to be able to extend the season like that. Yes. I don't plan at all. I just go find out what I like to grow. I don't particularly care for growing from seeds. I like to grow from plants now. I do want to show something back here. Something that's that I came across that I thought I could use. Is it all stuck together? Oh, here we are. Create a mini greenhouse from one side to the other, and that's how you use your. You can grow in the winter time too. So you create a mini greenhouse with the piping. Put your plastic across it. You're good to go. And then as the season warms up, of course, you can remove it and put it away. It's good to have the space that you can do these things. You need, lots of bits and pieces. Gardens are nice, but they're not the tiniest places, so you can wheelbarrows, pots, all good. So we'll go and we'll talk about composting and copper tools. That's great. Copper tools because of the feeling I have when I'm using them and how easily they work quite nicely. A fellow by the name of Victor Schauberger introduced the world to copper tools and the reason using copper. So it was quite the energy pattern that's created between the earth, the sky, and copper. It allows the facilitation of that energy into the foods you're eating, and that's really why you eat what you eat to get that energy. So it's a simple thing, and it's good. It's the truth. What more can I say?
Okay. Well, how do you know when you're composting?
Well, with me, I'm not so sure I can tell you how I know, other than the fact that there's compost. So with compost, I just keep building the pile, and it just continues to be there, and I keep adding to it leaves and plants and kitchen scraps, and once accumulates, and eventually it'll find its way into the raised beds. And mixing it with good soils, it just does the trick, and this is the result. So we enjoy taking the compost. It's not our work, it's just a convenience in a sense that it's there, I can add to it, and then when I'm ready to move it, I move it into the garden, and away we go. So try not to have work associated with the gardening effort, because in a sense you have enough work to do without creating more work. So as far as composting is concerned, it kind of looks after itself, and that's, for me, that works.
How do you deal with bugs such as that?
I don't. Actually, bugs that come into my garden, I don't pay too much attention to them except for one, and that is the potato bug. And I use diatomaceous earth to deal with the potato bug. It's an annoyance, but that's what happens. And with the diatomaceous earth, it's good for the soil, and it prevents the bugs from expanding. And of course, you can collect some of them and destroy them yourself, but that's it. Squirrels, chipmunks, mice, they do their own damage, and you try to accommodate that. Again, it's not a big issue. You know, I'm not watching every tomato or every apple. I just carry on and let nature have its way. But as long as it doesn't get out of hand, I'm okay. That's it. Does that look like okay, compost?
So you don't stir it or anything?
Excuse me?
You don't stir it or anything?
Just keep dumping on top of it. Just keep piling it and piling it. Nice. Smells good too.
More about your greenhouse?
Sure. I got the greenhouse by accident from a neighbor who was getting rid of it, so I helped him, and he gave me the frame. So it's really 6 pieces of metal put together, welded. So we clamped them. As you can see, we have the seed clamps here, holding in place. The plastic, it's fairly obvious you get it. My intention next year is to make the roof all clear plastic like this one here. So the plastic this plastic came from Keelan's greenhouse as their discards.
And what kind of plastic is that?
Well, it's a 6 mil polyplastic. But it's greenhouse plastic. But it does a great job. But replacing it is not something I want to do 2 or 3 or 4 times. You know. So eventually, I'm going to use clear plastic to do the dome, which is what I'd like to see happen. Small investment, but the return is what I want. So the better light penetration, better heat, better control, and a better design. The frame is excellent, and it can be put together in a couple of hours. Once you have the space, the frame is just 5 pieces, and away you go. The heat, it's wonderful. There's lots of heat, moisture control. It's a good place to come on a winter sunny day. You warm right up, just like plants. So it's good, and I think plants are hardy. They don't really mind, the fluctuations that much. So it works. And then of course, convenience of the door, in and out, and you get your little sprayer can, so you can spray all of your plants as they're growing with nutrients. Easy stuff. It's all pretty well straightforward. Well, I'm a bee lover, so I'm familiar with pollination, and absolutely, we all know how critical it is to have pollinators in the garden. We have, as they call it, a pollinator pathway. So my wife tends to put a lot of flowers down, And we've got the butterfly bushes, hydrangeas, and plants and flowers. So with the apple trees and the pear trees and so on, yeah, obviously pollinators, and again strawberries too. So we need those pollinators to hang around. I'm more focused on vegetables as opposed to fruits at the minute because obviously it's going from one to the other. So our trees are not as big to look for abundant apples or fruit from them. But next year, after we prune them in the fall, we'll look towards making some improvement. But pollinators from the front of the garden, where the flowers start, all the way through the garden and back into the vegetable garden, yes, we do facilitate some pollination through it. And we see a lot of pollinators. And they're very, it's lovely to see them when they hang out and do the thing.
So what kind of pollinators do you have, and is having fruit, flowers, and vegetables
Excellent.
good mix?
Yes, absolutely. Well, we like color in our garden, and my wife tends to look after the flowers. As you can see, she does a great job. The pollinators are a mix of yellow jackets, butterflies, honeybees, bumblebees, obviously different birds and so on like that. They'll all be pollinators, moths and that, and combining them in a fruit, like in a garden and a vegetable garden, crossover is excellent. Corn and tomatoes and strawberries and so on like that. The combination is wonderful. We don't purposely put flowers in the vegetable garden, but in the whole garden, the ambience is for flowers to entertain us and have the beauty. And then, of course, the crossover to attract the pollinators, the apple trees, the pear trees, and so on like that. It's a good mix. And a lifestyle of gardening and so on like that, is not an isolated thing. People that are gardeners tend to be more inclined to be sustainable. In my case, I've managed to put up some solar panels, microfit, and also solar thermal panels on the side of the house. And inside the house, we have a geothermal system so that we can minimize our carbon footprint, not intentionally to, be all of that. It's just when you're engaged in a lifestyle of stewardship, you do these things. So you start with the food you eat and the water you drink and the air you breathe, and then you carry that forward so it's part of your well-being and sustainability. You are the resilient force in the disaster. You have to be the strong one to help your neighbor. So that's kind of the approach in making sure that I'm not a burden on anybody else. Rather, I'm an asset. And I think if people look at it from that perspective and engage with sustainability as a lifestyle, I think we'll all be better off. And that's how it works. Well, we don't grow all the food we eat, but we eat most of the food we grow. And of course, we got neighbors. And I'm always pestering the neighbors with tomatoes and salad and onions. And they don't seem to mind. But this is a jar of beets. And we will set up maybe 40 or 50 jars of beets. Some we give away. Of course, we have it for our enjoyment throughout the year. And then we've got other things that we have in the freezer, such as apples and pears and other fruits, corn, frozen, picked and frozen. If we don't grow it ourselves and put it away, we manage to find connections for purchasing the food and setting it aside. It comes down to a part of a lifestyle of being sustainable with energy, sustainable with food, doing what you can from the point of view of being self-sufficient. And when you bring all of that together, it kind of gives you a balance and a solid foundation. So I'll enjoy my pickles. Here's my hand.
Well, all right. Thank you so much, Terry, for showing your beautiful garden and your greenhouse.
Hey, it's always great to have an audience to listen to me. Thank you very much for coming and sharing some of my journey and the enjoyment that I have. And I thank you very much for your interest, and let's make everything green.
All right, that was a very informative video. Now we'll start our Q&A session with Terry. So let's begin with our first question that was asked by Diane earlier. So Terry, if you don't mind, could you speak about bartering and what you do with the excess of fruits and vegetables you have from your garden?
So you're referring to my dynamic skills of bartering.
Yeah.
I have so many connections in the vegetable kingdom. A lot of them are Mennonites, and a lot of them are at Trail's End. So when I go to Trail's End, I find that there's some technologies that I have that they're interested in, and some of the food that they have. So for example, we have a battery device that's called a Canada's device. We trade that for $100 worth of food. So bartering. So that's a typical way for me to gain a lot of food that I value in exchange for some of the technologies that I promote. So that's a typical way of doing it. It hasn't been as much I've done a lot of it this year, but it has been more spotty. I trade off some other things like maple syrup and honey, and it works a lot for me, and I really enjoy it. So the bartering side is very much doable, and there's a lot of people out there that are really interested in trading good food for most anything that you can offer.
And in terms of the access you get, what do you do?
The excess of the food, usually, a lot of times, well, obviously I've got a large family, and I give them my produce, cabbages and tomatoes and peppers, and it's fun for me to knock on a neighbor's door and hand them over a bag of peppers and some potatoes, and then across the street it'll be corn and some radishes or even celery, and it's just, there's so much abundance that you just give it away. I had a chap stop over a few days ago from the other side of the street, and he walked away with an armful of veggies, and two other people came by. So it's wonderful to have an open gate. We call this theft by invitation. So come and help yourself.
Oh, that's really wonderful. And we also have another question from the audience. So it's like, how do you have access to well water inside the city?
Well, that's very interesting. Several years ago, when I installed a geothermal system, the chap that installed the geothermal system happened to be a well driller who hit water at certain depth, and he just turned to me and said, "It looks like you're going to have a well." And I was delighted with the blessing. So we've accepted that as a blessing in our life, and we use it and enjoy it. And it's an abundance of water, but at the same time it's groundwater, and it goes back to the groundwater. So it's pretty good, and it's an exception, I understand, but it worked for me.
Thank you. And also, like, how many times in a week do you water your plant, and does that matter depending on the type of crop you have?
Well, that's a very interesting question. I'm always learning about watering. I don't pay too much attention because I'm always busy doing things. So watering becomes something that I fit in as I need to. I have learned that watering can attract some detrimental sides like a mold or something, depending on what time you water. But it hasn't been a real issue for me. So I tend to water when I have time to water. And there's really not a specific thing that I look for. I do intend to be more assiduous about looking at when to water and what can result from the benefits and the detriments of watering. So it's something that I have on my schedule to explore a bit more.
Okay, and just one final question. Does it matter whether you plant your plants in a container, raised beds, or in the ground? Like, which one do you find is more effective, or does it differ again?
Well, that's an interesting thing. Just in looking at this season and how the abundance has occurred, it seems like when you're neglectful and you just plant it and let Mother Nature do its thing, it has worked really well. I must say the tomatoes have responded extraordinarily in volume and quality and size with these mini greenhouses that I started. Um, the air pots, to some degree, have not developed very well in one section, but the spacing provided by the air pots, the small ones particularly, have been really, really good and generous. Cabbages and celery. Celery seems to have taken right off in air pots. Now, there's no base to those air pots in the raised beds. So they're actually growing in the ground with this tube around them, and it tends to have expanded or extended the celery, and it's very, very intense. There's a lot of quality to that celery. So again, it's another area of experimentation for me. I'm looking forward to next year being more attentive to the details, and I do expect a huge increase in abundance. I've now started the process of building the big raised beds with these bigger tubes, and I'm looking forward to getting them going. Shortly, I will start looking to make greenhouses to carry through the most of the winter, and certainly will look to do it in the early spring. I would imagine that by March, I'll have 15 small greenhouses out there and seeing how they're performing. So it's something I'm looking forward to.
Oh, that's wonderful. And also, would so Stephanie asks, would love to know if you're available for a consult in her backyard and if you can help her plant similarly to yours. And also, she had another question, would also know where you buy your big tubings.
Where would be by my
Tubes?
Oh, the tubes. Okay, interesting questions. First of all, yes, Stephanie would like for me to coach her. First of all, I would suggest she come here and see what I do, and then we implement whatever strategies we can in her back garden, and certainly be more than happy to do that. From a point of view of the tubes, well, you have to be a bit of a scavenger and adventurer. So what happens is some of these construction companies pull these tubes out of the ground. They don't know what to do with them. The small ones you can find in abundance. The bigger ones have more value to them, so people tend to hang on to them. But they are available from construction companies that deal in drainage, in road work, etc. And that's where I got most of mine from. Fortunate, but I also kept my eyes and ears open for them. So it's a matter of tuning in to find out where you can find them. And if we go direct to the manufacturer, obviously you can buy them, but then at the same time, they have the longevity of them is one of the things I'm really looking forward to. And the fact that you can use them as greenhouses, I think, are going to be very, very, very interesting over the next year or two.
All right, thank you. And I think that's all the time we have available for questions. Thank you, everyone, for your questions. All right, and wrapping up, we would like to know that TREA is offering a number of how-to workshops this year on topics that are influence our current interests and behavior given the COVID-19 pandemic. We hope through these workshops, individuals will take action on climate change on a personal level. For more information, please visit our website at www.trea.ca or Facebook at TREA London. Again, thank you everyone for participating in TREA's how-to workshops on resiliency gardening as a major food supply with Terry. Again, Terry, thank you so much for participating in this as well.
My pleasure, and thank you for your interest.
We look forward to seeing you guys again in our next session, which is being held next Tuesday. Thank you, everyone.